Welcome to the Channel's Book Club. Let's get started by reminding you once again that the Channel's Book Club Prize for Literature is still ongoing. It is an essay competition for teenagers in all Nigerian secondary schools. If you know a teenager who should participate, encourage him or her to pick up Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. Please remember that entry closes on the 31st of August 2013. The first prize is a sponsored trip to this year's edition of the Frankfurt Book Fair in Frankfurt, Germany. Get all the details you need on www.channelstv.com/home/guidelines. You can also call 0803-332-0974 or 081-384-57084 to get more information. The competition is supported by Latana Books, Lufthansa German Airline, and Goethe Institute Nigeria. Please join us after this break.
Channels Television presents the Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, where one student in Nigeria stands a chance of winning the top prize of a sponsored trip to the 2013 Frankfurt Book Fair in Frankfurt, Germany, 50,000 naira worth of books and exciting consolation prizes for the runners-up. How to participate? Candidates should read and write not more than 1,500 words on Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. The submitted essay must have a title, the candidate's full name, contact number, school, principal's name and contact. Essays should be sent to the Channels Book Club at channelstv.com. For further information, visit www.channelstv.com or call Kunle on 080-333-20974 or Orelua on 0813-845-7084. Entry closes August the 31st, 2013. The Channel's Book Club Prize for Literature, supported by Lufthansa German Airline, Latana Books, and Goethe Institute.
Reginald Ofodile is a remarkable actor, poet, and writer. He has played significant roles in various movies, including the upcoming Half of a Yellow Sun, an eagerly anticipated film adaptation of Chimamanda Adichie's successful novel with the same title. Reginald is the author of Thou Shalt Not. Thank you for coming on the Channel's Book Club.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a treat.
It's a pleasure having you.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Can you tell us a bit about your background, particularly with regards to your literary history and interests?
The professional background, I'd say, was the law. My father practiced it for 50 years and retired, and my siblings are practicing it. However, the literary, the artistic, was encouraged. The influences were conspicuous and strong. When I was a child, I remember there was this opera, Joseph of Egypt, by Mayhew, the French composer, produced in Onitsha, and my mother was the presenter. And my parents never stinted on books, educational material. And so that was there, and from quite early in life I devoured storybooks, graduated to novels, and then it seemed one step away to scribble my own work. And so the plays and poems came. And something else, if I may mention this, in secondary school, I had an influential teacher, Mr. Emmanuel Onwebu. His subject, his designation was literature teacher. He was literature teacher. But he also taught drama. He encouraged the creative. And I think his influence has been enormous in the professional choices I made.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Now, you have a wide range of interests in the literary space. Poems, playwright, you even do acting.
I try,
Now,
strut my stuff.
How do you how do you combine all those with law?
Quite often, something gives. You have to make choices. And these choices are presented to you, as it were. And quite often, I choose the artistic. And I think I'd always choose the artistic. And stretching this a bit, the artistic sometimes brings what I call two H factors: hardship and heartache. But I think I'd choose it even if it means starving to death in the streets. And if the death is painful, it would at least be free of frustration, free of professional frustration.
Okay. Before we go further, let's talk a bit about your acting. Which roles are the most special to you? And then, is there anything you're doing currently?
No, I'm not acting currently, and I hope people don't see this interview as acting. I'm speaking. Now, the roles, I'd like to think every role is special. The most recent one was in an Ola Rotimi play, Her Husband Has Gone Mad Again. That was in London late last year. And before that, in Calabar last year, was Half of a Yellow Sun, the famous book, where I played Olanna's impoverished uncle. She visited in Kano before the riots erupted that changed the face of Nigeria forever.
You seem to play the impoverished guy a lot in some of your movies. Why that?
Sad. I hope it's not an omen for my life. I'm not skinny. I'm not scrawny. And when I did Half of a Yellow Sun last year, it was the third time in 3 years that I was playing an impoverished character. In London in late 2009, October 2009, we did a play called High Life, the first performance. I played lead. The role was Mighty Omoro. He was lead character, but he was impoverished and embittered. After that, there was the Zulu Shofola play at the Cochrane in London, and I played Ibekwe in 18th century Delta State. There wasn't a Delta State then, obviously, who was so hard up, he had to marry off his daughter to raise money to look after his sick son. He was in absolute financial straits. And when Half of a Yellow Sun came round, of course, which was a film every actor, black actor worldwide wanted to be in, and I was thrilled hugely to be in it. But I played her impoverished uncle in Kano, and I couldn't help wondering if it was an omen for my life. But life goes on. Life goes on. And I think you mentioned earlier the one I liked most. Those days in Calabar were blissful. I'd lived there years earlier as a youth cuppa. It's a serene place, dignified place. And although it had been a capital from the late 19th century, days of the Niger Coast Protectorate and Oil Rivers Protectorate, it had the tranquility of a country town. Those were 4 blissful days in Calabar doing Half of a Yellow Sun.
I'm going to ask you to say a little bit about Half of a Yellow Sun. Everybody's looking forward to it. I watched the trailer a bit of that a few days back. It was quite interesting. What should we be looking forward to? Were you excited being a part of that?
Oh, definitely. And I heard marvelous things about some of the other actors who, you know, we sort of came and went. You did your own scenes. But I heard Onyeka Onwenu was being mobbed because she had played Mama superbly. That's Odenibo's mother. And of course, I had my scene with Olanna, who was Odenibo's girlfriend and later became his wife. And ours was shot in an old part of Calabar. It was the reproduction of a street in Kano. So very authentic. I had a bicycle repairer's shed, which was my work. And the lady who played my wife, Gloria Anozie Young, had her dressmaking business in the market. They had a meat slab. It was very authentic, very, very good experience. And I think I also saw the refugee hospital that Olanna's sister Kainene ran. You know, very pathetic. made you think of what horrors people experienced in wartime, that the situation was such that the hospital could hasten death rather than prevent it. Life goes on.
Let's talk about your book now, Thou Shalt Not. Interesting
Indeed.
topic. Tell us about it.
The protagonist is Bassi, and there's another person there, Odauzo, and Bassi seemed set for success in the material world. It's set in the 1920s mainly, so he grew up in this fictitious African country, went to its most prestigious secondary school, went to Fura Bay, Sierra Leone, and gained a degree from Durham University, had a Durham degree, and then decided to be a lawyer. And at some stage he changed course. There were some agonies within him which impelled him towards the priesthood. And that's Bassi's story, and he met Odauzo, who'd been privileged, who encountered horrors in her life. And so they lived in this rural community and they had their adventures. A lot of uplifting things happened. A lot of crushing encounters occurred. And it goes on. I don't want to give too much away.
Is there a bit of you in the Bassi character? What inspired the Bassi character? Bassi read law,
He did.
wanted to be a lawyer, and then became a priest. Is there your story in there?
I never became a priest, or I'm not yet a priest. I'll answer this in my way. There's a saying that all writing is autobiography. And I think it's true, not so much in terms of events, as in your preoccupations, your interests, the emotions portrayed, the conflicts encountered. Just stretching this a bit before I address this full on. There's a novel of mine called Night of Content, and an acquaintance read it in manuscript, well typed, not published, and said there was a lot about food in it. And I realized she was right, because I like pottering about in the kitchen and cooking and maybe eating sometimes. And I put a lot of it into this protagonist who gave a number of dinner parties and quite often cooked and served. And I wasn't aware of it. So in terms of the human emotions, conflicts, sensitivity, and so on of Bassi, yes, a lot of me is in Bassi, in Odauzo, and other characters, but I didn't have his experiences.
Thank you for coming on the Channels Book Club.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure having you.
It's been a treat.
It opens with a gate of arts, moves into windows of creativity,
She finds the only English word she knows from somewhere hidden in the belly of a 4-foot 9-inch body, and instead of "I won't get," she greets us with "Bye bye."
branches into rooms of color, and ends with a roof of imagination.
Walk into Art House. The pieces all come together at 9:30 p.m. every Saturday. Art House, life is art.
Our other guest, Kayode Adeniji, apart from being a legal practitioner, is also a dispute resolution expert. But his real passion is inspiring sincere and capable leaders. Now, let me ask you, can a righteous man ever be in power in Nigeria? Well, Kayode believes so. He has written a unique book titled Righteous Man in Power, and he sat with us to talk about it. Please join us after this break. Thank you for coming on the Channels Book Club, Kayode.
Thank you, colleague.
It's a pleasure having you here.
All right, thank you.
Righteous Man in Power, interesting topic or title. But tell us about it and what inspired you to write it.
Yes, just like you've said, righteous man in power sounds almost impossible. And When I meditate on how we have so much intellectuals in our country and yet we remain clueless on the way forward, I get answers. When I meditate on the vast resources God has given to Nigeria and all of the things that we have, but the result is not too impressive, you know, answers come. And I have read a lot of books that talks about power, politics, and all. Some of these books will encourage people to be brutal. If you want to maintain power, you have to silence the opposition. If you want to maintain power, you have to be very brutal and, you know, very wicked. But we believe that there are men who can be righteous, who will lead with an iron hand, yet with a sense of justice, and, you know, make a developed nation out of an underdeveloped nation. And that is the reason why you have, you know, the righteous man in power. That it is possible to be in power, govern rightly, and finish strong. And all of the strategies to do that are inside that book, and that was what inspired me.
Okay, I'm going to play the cynic here.
Okay.
In Nigeria, you just have to wonder, is that possible in Nigeria? First of all, there is so much corruption. Secondly, politics is a do or die affair in a country like this. And most people who are righteous, you know, would rather stay away from politics entirely because it's almost like entering a death zone. While I was reading your book, I noticed that was exactly what you were trying to address, you know, but I've got to play the cynic here. Is that possible in Nigeria?
Kunle,
Is that workable?
Kunle, it is very possible. And you'll see that the book is not about analysis of our problems. The book is not about, you know, the history of how things have gone wrong. It is beyond Nigeria, and I want to say this, that I was even surprised about the response, you know, from the writing of the book, even outside Nigeria and in other African countries. So people are beginning to realize that, you know, it is possible to have a righteous man in power. And you and I are in the same nation. Of course, if you want to create a change, you will have people who are going to deride you, make jest of your intentions. At the end of the day, they discover that that is not working. They begin to threaten you. If they discover that you're not bending to threats, they begin assassination attempts on your life. So it is not new. And a lot of people with sincere intention, if you like, call it right men in power, call it a right man in power, but it is RMP. When people, you know, have the vision to develop a nation, or you want to lead a nation, you have to have strategy. And what is failing in some of these sincere people that you talk about is because they don't have strategy. And in that book, you'll find gathering momentum, gathering men of like minds to ensure that you achieve what you want to achieve. The reason why you have sincere men go into politics, and at the end of the day you wonder, is it the same person who was talking so passionately about change and transformation? The reason is that when he got there, he discovered that he has been surrounded by a pool of corrupt people, so he's alone. The second reason is that there is no preparation. And in that book, you'll find preparation in obscurity. And I believe that there are so many people in Nigeria, in the forgotten corners of this country, who are ready to take up leadership, and they are not afraid of death. And that is why I believe that righteous man in power in Nigeria and in other African nations is possible. Nigeria is going to be one of the world powers. At least 5 African nations are going to be developed countries in my own lifetime. And I believe that it is possible through the strategies laid out in Righteous Man in Power.
So you've written this book for such people, you know, who have such leadership potential, who have such hearts, you know, to lead Nigeria correctly. Those are the people I'm sure you desire to read this book, particularly.
Yes, even away from Nigeria, there are other countries where, you know, the governance of the country has been taken over by drug lords in some of the South American countries. There are people there who read it and, they send us, responses about how the book has inspired them. So it is not only for Nigeria. The problem of Nigeria only is very small. Yes. If we have people...
A lot of people won't agree with that.
Exactly. It's very small because everybody talks about leadership and leadership and leadership. And all we need are good leaders. And those who are sincere, who want to do that, they are not strong enough. They don't have enough strategy. It is very laughable and comical when you see sincere men coming together to engage an evil system. It is because evil has prevailed because there is a watertight teamwork, amongst those who practice corruption. But those who are sincere, they find it very hard to create a connection and do things together. Sincere men have an impression that it is only their activity, it is their own activity that will be able to create a change. They have this tendency to arrogate so much to themselves. But if sincere men can drop all of their egos and come together to form a watertight team, Nigeria can be a great place again.
But again, that's the major problem, that you just outlined now, the major problem in Nigeria.
Exactly.
Where the right people who have the right values, who have the right hearts, who have the right skill sets, who have the right competencies, just never come together to solve problems. Let's even leave the national level now. Even at the local levels, streets and estates,
exactly.
To get good people coming together to do things, it's a big challenge in Nigeria. Now, how can we deal with this? I mean, what have you recommended in your book?
Yeah, what we have recommended
in terms of dealing with that.
Okay, what we have recommended in the book is to let people know that the evil you want to oppose, they are as fearful as you are. They are as vulnerable as you are. And you have to realize that. For example, in some of the Northern African nations, people agree that they don't want a particular government, and they were able to mobilize themselves to unseat the government. But right now, they need a good leader. But the ability to do that is not there because people do not strategize from the beginning to the end. And in this book, you will find out how to organize yourselves, even communities and neighborhoods and churches and mosques, especially those who are spiritual, that the power that you have been given is not for you to be, is useless in heaven. It is useful here on earth, and you have to use it here. So we're saying that when you gather people who in their individual roles can create a change and you bring them together to form a formidable force, no source of hell can prevail against such people.
Now, are we going to begin to see, you said earlier that Nigeria will be a superpower country.
Yes.
Now, when are we going to begin to see this? We are moving towards 2015 now.
Exactly.
That's another chance to get a righteous man in power. When are we going to? The signs are not there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not skeptical. I'm an optimist. I believe in Nigeria. I'm very passionate about the country. But I'd like you to share a bit of that, some of your thoughts, particularly as you've written in this book.
Okay.
With regards to that.
Yes, Kunle. I was ready to wait for 4 years. For another 4 years, for people to really get and imbibe the strategy that is laid down in this book. The race of motivated men could be a 100-meter dash, powered by motivation. But the race of an inspired man is a marathon. So we are not setting a timeline to the change in Nigeria. That Nigeria is going to be a world power. There is no timeline to it. Because if you want to engage a system, you want to go the whole hog and ensure that victory is achieved. Now, it might not be looking like that now, but the response we have gotten, this book was published exactly 12 minutes after 12, on 12/12/12. And, the response now is just, to me, surprising, because we were ready to wait for 4 years before this book could really come out, to the consciousness of the people, and for people to see that, okay, there is a book, the first time in the world, that lays bare the strategies. We believe that with time, people will begin to read with translation of it in our indigenous languages, with what we have on the social media. It is just with time when people begin to read, just like you're doing in book club, creating the power, creating a chain through reading culture. People will get to this, and from one to another person, the change will begin. And it's already happening. This book is not going to cause it. People already have the potential to create a change, but the strategy to move forward. People are already angry. They can mobilize. They can do a lot of demonstration and protest. But the real strategy to ensure that right people are placed in positions, that is what this book is providing for. And Nigerians are ready.
Thank you for coming on the Channels Book Club.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Our books of the week are Reginald Ofodile's Thou Shalt Not and Kayode Adeniji's Righteous Man in Power. Get yourself copies and enjoy reading them.
Channels Television presents the Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, where one student in Nigeria stands a chance of winning the top prize of a sponsored trip to the 2013 Frankfurt Book Fair in Frankfurt, Germany, 50,000 naira worth of books and exciting consolation prizes for the runners-up. How to participate? Candidates should read and write not more than 1,500 words on Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. The submitted essay must have a title, the candidate's full name, contact number, school, principal's name and contact. Essays should be sent to the Channels Book Club at channelstv.com. For further information, visit www.channelstv.com or call Kunle on 080-333-20974 or Orelua on 0813-845-7084. Entry closes August the 31st, 2013. The Channels Book Club Prize for Literature, supported by Lufthansa German Airline, Laterna Books, and Goethe Institute.
As always, we'll be happy to have you on any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. Don't forget to encourage any teenager around you to participate in the Channels Book Club Prize for Literature and earn a trip to Frankfurt, Germany. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Olakunle Kasumu. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.